Hey, this is Frank. You're listening to an Origins episode of the Unbecoming Platypus podcast. Do you ever feel like you have friends who sometimes just don't get each other? This is a podcast that I recorded with two of my friends, Jake and Noah. We find out the hard ways we struggle to communicate better and sometimes succeed, but sometimes not. For years, the three of us have talked about communication and how it's sometimes easier said than done. Even when we're trying to be understanding, our well-meaning intentions often get lost in translation. We decided to share these conversations with the world. Join us as we find out what happens when three friends try to learn how to really talk to each other.
Man, I opened Instagram and there this is the thing that showed up.
Naked woman? That's evil. That's Satan. There is evil in the world after all. In the form of a cinnamon roll.
Cinnamon rolls.
No, I did recently create a recipe that nearly mimics all the qualities of a cinnamon roll at around 3 grams total carbohydrates.
What was your rubric for, what's the word, adjudicating this cinnamon roll? Was it texture, mouthfeel?
Yep.
Flavor, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cinnamonness.
Yes, on the cinnamonness scale.
Please say it's cinnamony.
Yeah, it's cinnamon.
Yeah, well, that's a very technical jargon term that most people don't know.
So cinnamonness.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that it came out correctly the first time I tried it.
You see, cinnamonness and synonymity are synonyms.
I think
it's recording, right? Because that was.
I think we forgot to do this segment on the last podcast where we choose up to 5 words that are in no way related and pretend like they are.
I like it. I like it a lot. It's it tells us a little bit something about ourselves.
Yeah. What does it tell us?
Minotaur.
I like that movie.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I think I saw a clip from it the other day. Back in my day, I had cocaine for breakfast.
Dinner. Yeah.
And for lunch, you know what I had? Cocaine.
Yeah. Noah will be with us shortly. He's probably texting his girlfriend on her internet connection.
Yeah, she texted me and told me that I hate her because I haven't said anything to her yet today. And I said, obviously.
You should have said, I've been texting you all morning. I guess it just didn't come through. Your internet's bad.
That's terrible.
Speaking of that, we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about honesty in relationships and reflection.
I thought bad internet.
We always talk about bad internet, so I'm sure that'll make it too.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, I was just giving you an example of what's not a great idea to do, which is gaslight your girlfriend. What are you talking about?
Do you think it's a good idea or not, though?
To gaslight your girlfriend?
Jake, and think about your evil parts.
I don't think it's a good idea.
Why?
See what I did there? I think it's an evil idea that was obviously in me, or it wouldn't have come out. Came from somewhere.
Where did it come from? That's what I mean.
Oh, where did it come from? Same place as Cotton Eye Joe.
Has it ever worked?
Not saying Cotton Eye Joe after someone asks where did it come from? No, that is invariably where it leads.
Has gaslighting ever worked?
Oh, I don't know. I don't. It's terrible.
That is not.
What do you? Well, I mean, what do you mean by worked?
Created the result that you wanted when you did it.
I mean, it might have created the result that I thought I wanted, but at the same time, I don't know that I've ever gaslit while knowing that's what I was doing.
You should try it out.
Yeah, try it right now.
Just as an example. I've been doing it this whole time, Frank.
I gotta say, this Harney and Son cinnamon tea is amazing.
Yes.
The cinnamonity is off the charts.
It's up there, yeah.
We're not sponsored by Harney and Sons, but
Yet.
We hope to.
I
if
have
I-
to be honest. If there was a sponsor that was right for us, it's you guys. So give me a call.
If
Harney
his phone number
and your
is
sons.
It's 618-800-8324.
if I talk about Harney and Sons and the cinnamon
Cinnamonity.
of this tea enough, they will be our sponsors. I know it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So you have gaslit, just you were gaslighting yourself at the same time.
100%.
Did either of the gaslightings work while you were simultaneously gaslighting?
And they both worked in that they led us both to believe that the conclusion I was stating was correct.
Mm-hmm.
It had short-term results toward the intended end.
Yeah.
And ultimately resulted in absolute destruction.
All right, good. So how do you avoid gaslighting yourself while gaslighting others now?
Wait, are we talking? Is this podcast about gaslighting?
Yes.
Noah, just follow along.
This podcast, I'll just say it for the record because I know sometimes you zone out when I say it. It's discuss the importance of honesty in relationships and personal growth and share strategies for incorporating those around us as mirrors in our daily life.
And so naturally, we started about Jake gaslighting.
So
I don't even know who said gaslighting or how we got here.
Uncertain in every way.
Same.
Oh, Amy. You're supposed
Oh,
to tell
you
her
were
that
gaslighting Amy.
Well,
Well,
that's right.
No,
Jake
Jake
let
wanted
you-
me to gaslight Amy.
I didn't want to. I suggested it. You see the difference here?
oh, you gaslighted yourself into wanting Noah to gaslight.
I never wanted it.
Yes, you did.
Uh-uh.
You did.
I suggested
You wanted it.
I suggested. Okay, maybe I wanted it. I don't know what to believe now. In any case,
You'll get there. Stage 4 is better than stage 2 and 3.
stage 4 gaslighting? Is that where you gaslight an entire country?
No, that seems way higher.
Stage 11, bro. Takes a lot of intentional effort. Anyway, I think that, through processes of self-reflection, we can start to realize the ways that we might be saying things that are untrue.
That's right.
I don't know of a way to weave this in properly, but I think that the distinction between truth and honesty is a very interesting thing. I have found myself to be honestly telling lies at different times in my life. And
Yeah.
I think my distinction is simply that I believe that what I'm saying is true, and then I later find out that it was absolutely not.
Yeah, my definition of lie is intent to deceive.
Sure.
And it comes with the bonus that if you are truly not intending to deceive, you ought to correct the record as soon as you find out.
Sure.
So with these two powers combined, it's almost Captain Planet of honesty.
I think that honesty was one of the Captain Planet powers, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. That shows me like the whole hierarchy. This was a whole pyramid scheme. There's like all the powers of honesty, and then honesty is a power that makes Captain Planet.
What if our podcast was this? Just whatever
It is.
loosest association possible with a word, you just throw it in there. Pyramid scheme.
It makes me think of Thomas the Tank Engine. Wasn't there a character named Schemer in this?
I don't think so. Scheme?
Noah?
Thomas,
Type schemer.
How's Amy doing?
she's good. Schemer?
Schemer. That's going to be SCH.
Do you want to phone a friend? We should really get the phone lines open. This podcast.
A person who is involved in making secret or underhanded plans.
Oh, yeah, no. Now, space. Thomas the Tank Engine.
Well, the first auto suggestion is Schemer Thomas the Train.
That's it.
I mean, it has to be it. They might.
Second is
Something different
Thomas
in
the
Europe.
Tank Engine. But I just wanted to make it clear that the first suggestion was the train.
Okay, well, if this is actually a thing that exists,
Horace,
I pulled that out of somewhere deep.
Horace Schemer, also known as Schemer, is the owner of the arcade at Shining Time Station.
Horace?
I didn't even know there was an arcade at Shining Time Station.
Nor did I.
Okay.
Do we know what Shining Time Station is?
I think it's the
Obviously,
station.
The station.
that Thomas lives in.
It doesn't look like it. Shining Time Station, it looks like a live action old show.
Hold on a second. I'm pulling some real deep repressed memories right now. Was George Carlin in Thomas the Tank Engine?
Hold on. Schemer lives up to his surname by creating awkward and outlandish schemes, which always seems to fail. In addition to his interesting wardrobe taste, Schemer loves to collect nickels. Oh man, this is Frank's dad. Especially from passengers who deposit them into the arcade machines. Other interests include a sizable comb collection. Schemer lives at home with his mother and is known to have at least one sibling who lives out of town, who is the parent of his nephew Schemee.
Are you on the Thomas the Tank Engine wiki?
I am.
Horace Schemer is the spitting image of his grandfather, Jebediah Schemer.
Yeah, he is.
And is fiercely proud of one prominent trait of the Schemer bloodline, the telltale curl on the side of his head. A follower of his own Schemer system of success, which often, if not always, lands him into trouble. Schemer does occasionally reveal a caring side of personality to his friends. Schemer's clumsiness sometimes sends him tumbling to land flat on his face, though he manages to do so without any serious injury to himself.
What you got for me, Frank?
Carlin narrated the 3rd and 4th seasons of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. He's the voice of all the people.
All?
I have never watched Thomas the Tank Engine ever once in my life.
I'm sure I have, and I'm sure it's been 30 years ago.
Well, you know about George Carlin, so...
Yeah, I mean, this could have been picked up later, but...
Thomas, for sure. He was the first... George Carlin was the first official American Thomas narrator after Ringo Starr left Shining Time Station for his
Ringo Starr?
music career. This is likely the reason why on most home media releases, episodes from the first 2 series were narrated by George Carlin instead of Ringo Starr. What? He re-narrated the first 2 seasons? Is that what that means?
Sure sounds that way.
Re-narrated.
You didn't even know that was a word.
Why would you... I mean, if you already have it narrated, why would you re-narrate it?
Because nobody can understand the Brits. Thomas was over here.
That's probably it.
He went to the loo. He took the lift up to the loo.
Everyone thought I was a genius. But really, I just couldn't play with my left hand.
Great.
So what's the best experience you've ever had while gaslighting someone? Best.
Wow.
I don't think I have a comment on this.
I think you do.
This is the segment where we call Brandy.
I think you have a comment that
Don't
you will not share.
Comment that will be recorded on this topic.
Understood.
Can we stop the recording for a moment?
Noah?
What's your best experience gaslighting someone?
I also have no comments on gaslighting.
Why?
You guys are pansies.
Seems like it's a thing for
Wait,
Jake.
did you tell us yours?
Yeah.
What was it?
You
said
didn't
it
tell
was
us specific.
Said it was bad and it led to total and utter absolute destruction.
Yeah, mine too. But
All right, so I think
not for me, just for others.
of course, as is usually the case with gaslighting.
This has been Jokes About Gaslighting with the Unbecoming Platypus podcast.
All right,
Flip
so
tippies.
if I have this straight, I think we've all agreed at this point that gaslighting is bad. Are we on the same page?
On the count of 3, let's all give our answer. 1, 2, 3. Yes.
There's good and evil in everyone.
Yep.
We had 3 different answers just now.
We did? I didn't hear Jake express an answer.
Exactly. He didn't express an answer.
I think it was the most like characteristic answer for all of us.
Yeah.
Noah's like, yes, absolutely.
Jake can't decide on anything.
Do you think you
It's
should
not
gaslight
true.
yourself? Let's say you're going to write a mythology for yourself and it's not true,
What?
but
Can
you're trying to get it to become true.
I have a question for Jake on mythology. If you're trying to write a myth and you don't have a sheet, can you write a myth?
You need
What-
a myth sheet.
What if you only have a Google sheet?
No, you need a myth sheet.
We're starting to have inside jokes, and our listeners are going to love it.
Oh, man.
That's from the last episode. You remember when they said the thing?
The dumb horse sheet thing?
That's why we call
Fully
it
intended not to be in the episode. And I'm editing, so.
Why?
Are you editing?
Did you already do it?
No, I'm afraid.
Okay. You have 2 days not to be afraid.
Oh, yeah, we should. No, you should do this one and then give me more time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is, should you sublimate, bad behavioral traits and try to direct them in a good direction? Like derive positive results from a poor character trait.
What is an example of a poor character trait?
A core character trait is
How's the sentimental end of tea?
I have no problem with it.
there's
There's
no alcohol involved in the making of this episode. It's not even 11 p.m.
It is Harney and Sons.
It's not even 11 a.m.
Master Tea Blenders.
I feel like our focus is on
What?
Yeah, what's it on?
it's enabled
Oh,
on whatever thought comes next.
yeah. This was supposed to be a follow-up on our self-reflection episode.
Yeah. Would you like a summary?
I don't typically ask for those. Jake does.
So what's kind of interesting is that back before I had really pushed into any sort of
Gaslighting.
growth, I kind of wanted little tidbits of information about myself that I could work on. Like I was so sort of alienated from myself, such a stranger to what was going on in my head, that I remember asking you guys, like, I think it was a birthday thing and we were all sitting around a bonfire and I said, like, what are my most toxic traits? Like, these were the types of things I would ask, and I wanted information. It wasn't like I said, hey, you guys are the authority on me, but like information about how I exist in the world, how I'm perceived. Give me something to help me out here.
Yeah.
As I've kind of progressed, I've become better at knowing myself and what's going on in real time. But yeah, that's kind of where it started, was asking other people to be a mirror for me.
Yeah. If you have people who will be honest with you, this is valuable. I think most people don't want that on some level, or they're afraid of it or something. I don't know anything about that experience. It's really never been mine.
Mm.
Like, ever since I can remember ever being in the world, I've always hoped people would tell me how it is. That's probably why I'm friends with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is interesting about the concept of self-reflection through others is unless you're willing to do the work yourself, I don't think it matters. I mean, I think it can be, we like to toss around the term mirror for sure. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a recognition point for yourself, but you still have to do the work. And if you're willing to do the work, I don't know that you actively need others for self-reflection.
Oh, I guess not. But
Well, hold up.
You're
If you're
not
not
going to
open
get much
to it.
out of...
If you're not open to it already, you're not going to get self-reflection from others.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, and maybe we should start with this. So I think that, okay, not that there are two, but I see two, like high level types of reflection through others. One is saying, hey, how do you see me? Like it's this very active, Frank, hey, what are my toxic traits? Tell me.
Sure. Anytime, man.
The other one is a little, it's really self-reflection in and of yourself, but you're using other people as a mirror, right? It's like, okay, I say this, they respond that way. I say this thing to Frank and I say this thing to Noah, and for some reason I get defensive responses from both of them.
Right.
I didn't mean it in any sort of offensive way, so why is it defensive?
Because you talk to us like children.
Right. So I am cataloging that for later. So I can then use this as sort of like an input-output. Okay, this was the input. This was the output I received. What can I figure out from that? And these to me are two different categories.
I also have a really good idea for later, because I'm going to throw it out there now and then we'll get back to Jake. But I think speed round, we go back and forth naming toxic traits of Jake.
Okay.
All right.
I'm down.
This is the other thing that's really interesting, just to start it out with using others as a mirror. If you use that first method and you say, hey, what do you think about me? You know, like what was going on here? Watch yourself whenever the other person starts to speak, because likely it's going to be invalidation. Like that's what it is for me. Okay, that person said this thing and I see this welling up, this argumentation structure that comes up and is like, no, they don't know because of this. No, they're wrong because they don't understand this piece. Let me give them more information.
Can you say this again in like a more summary version?
Yeah, so you say, Jake treats us like children, right? And so I create a definition of what you mean by that in my mind.
Okay.
And I think, okay, so he probably means this specific interpretation. Now, why would he think that? Oh, he just doesn't know that the reason that I'm doing that is because of this environmental variable. So I'll tell him that. It'll invalidate this thing, and now I don't have to look at it. Like,
yeah, that's a defense mechanism in action.
Absolutely.
What's your point?
My point is that kind of what Noah was saying. If you are on this path and you actually have friends who you trust and you actually want to know the truth, watch the invalidation mechanism start ticking in your mind.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And try not to do it for 5 minutes.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and
Turn that off for 5 minutes because it will be there, I promise.
yeah, it does get a little bit, certainly using others as a reflection of your own, you know, or as a catalyst for self-reflection, let's say, is valuable. But I do think there are some dangers involved because those individuals' reactions are also based on their own thing. So so you could get the same reaction from Frank and I. Both of us have it, let's say, like a defensive response. Both of us could be responding defensively for completely different reasons that have completely 100%, nothing to do with you, and 100% to do with our own personal lives that are happening.
Yeah.
And so for you to just automatically go, oh, they both defended themselves here, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
There is some danger in that.
It's a trigger for self-reflection. It doesn't mean there is something here, it is my fault. But asking that question and leaving open the potential that you are doing something is very helpful.
Yeah, well, and there's like another type of self-reflection that you get through others that's not as direct at all, which is like, this is the 5th time in a row you've been fired for being the angry guy in the office. Nobody said like, hey, don't be the angry guy, but you might want to look into it.
Sure. Absolutely.
Have you been fired?
I have been fired.
Because of being the angry guy?
In no way.
Okay.
Have you been fired?
No.
Highly recommend it. Have you?
Never been fired. I've been laid off, though.
That's the same thing. They just call it different something.
I mean, it was at the beginning of COVID, but Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I mean,
there
if you're
is-
talking about the mental things that happen to you as soon as you get laid off, it's a month or 2 or 5.
I would be far angrier if I were laid off than fired,
Yeah.
to be honest. It's
Well,
like you couldn't just tell me the truth.
Right.
We're not making enough money and you're not helping it, so we can't keep you around here. That's what's happening.
Oh, sure.
You know, that's firing. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think this isn't what the conversation is about.
It's not, but you can
It's
be fired.
it can be
laid
way
off.
more complex than that.
Of
in LA.
course. Yeah.
Yes. That's
That
all.
caterpillar, it's way more complex than that. Right.
Caterpillar? How would I know?
Because like the people who work at Caterpillar are a welder on the 737 truck line,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't sell enough of those.
737, I think, is an airplane.
It's a both.
Okay.
He said Boeing weird.
I did say Boeing weird.
I just flew American Airlines and I was on a Caterpillar 737.
This thing had a giant scoop in the front.
That was a yellow plane, let me tell you.
Yeah. It's a 797. So I was wrong.
They're scooping the tops of mountains.
Anyways, yeah, they're working on 797. They didn't sell as many of them in Australia this year, so we don't need as many welders. We're going to go down to 2 shifts. Like, that's a little...
And this happens once a quarter. Well, Decatur's going to be okay. No, wait a second. Actually, the economy is failing.
Yeah.
Caterpillar laid off again.
Anyways, I don't even know.
Caterpillar amazes me. The business model of Caterpillar, because like in Decatur, I don't know if they still do, but that's where they used to at least manufacture those massive mining trucks.
Yeah.
The
like
ones where they can turn a semi around in the, like literally in the
797.
bed of the truck.
Yeah.
Oh, they have balls for wheels, and then they can just rotate.
And I just wonder, what's the market for those? How many of those massive trucks do you need in the world?
Those things are insane, man. So what I'm hearing, though, is that there really are a lot of different things that this could mean, and does mean, right? It's like, hey, I can ask people directly, be a mirror for me. Tell me how this is feeling. Number 2, I can just kind of pay attention and say, when I do certain things, people seem to respond in a certain way. Another way is that I can just pay attention to patterns in my life and be like, okay, what has seemed to be the result of my behavior in the world? This is probably a me thing, and not that specific person and that specific person and that specific person 5 times over.
Yeah.
These are very different. There's another one that I've also noticed, and it's that as I dig into the qualities in myself. So, for instance, I'm trying to do a better job of giving examples instead of just keeping this totally meta.
Good job.
So, for instance, I feel as though I'm not allowed to be an emotional person. This is embarrassing. This is not a good thing to be in the world. Young Jake believes this. As I grow up and I start to look into that shadow and say, I never should have put you there. This is a part of me. It's healthy. I need to actually deal with it. When I look around at other people and see them repress their emotions, this creates an anger type of response in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I start to realize that I'm frustrated with another human being for doing this thing. But really what's going on is I'm frustrated with myself. So what am I really saying here? A way to use another person as a mirror is to say, are you having conversations with people in your head? Are you like having arguments with people? Okay, that's your trigger to try to figure out what you're afraid of, to try to figure out what you're defending against in your own life, because it's you, not them.
Cut this out if you don't like it, but one of the most valuable experiences I've ever had in this was watching you and Jessica try to sort out your lives at the end of your relationship.
Okay.
Because you would ask me to come like mediate discussions, basically. You didn't, I don't think you said come mediate discussions, but
Yeah.
You're like, you want to come over? We're going to talk. Watching you both project your own issues on each other with like almost no grounding in reality. Like you could not see each other's points for anything was so sad. And it's forever created memories for me of what not to do in relationships. Because it happens all the time. Like, I mean, I responded to those calls all the time as a paramedic even. Where something becomes violence and I'm like, what happened? And the stories are totally different. Like there are two people there who have completely different stories about what happened. And seeing that was like, I've never seen it up close and so detailed as I saw with you two, but.
Yeah. What was so weird about that is to know it's occurring. And I mean, I think that was what sort of drew us to that necessary ending. It was like, this is painful, but unfortunately I can't see you as the person you are. All I can see are the ways that I feel hurt by you. And I don't even know how to start unraveling that.
Sure. Yeah. It was deep and twisty for sure. Both sides. Yeah. But it made honesty seem even more important and avoiding projection. Like, I don't know how frequent it is for most people that they hear someone say something and they're like, that is not how I feel. What you just said is not my reality. But for a long time, I sort of minimized that. I was like, what does it matter how I feel? I'm just going to help you get to whatever you need to happen in the world. But I think it's valuable to even say, hey, that is not how I feel.
So what I just heard when you said that was, hey, not only am I using other people as mirrors, but they're using me. And it's kind of incumbent on me as a human to be a mirror with high fidelity for them.
Yeah.
Hey, actually, you're wrong.
Yeah. And for me, that's been something that's like there's not a strong energy source for that. I'm like usually solving problems in my mind. There's a lot going on for me that it's always been like sort of like, oh man, you're so wrong about that. But who has the time to go through it? Like, what's the value of that? And it's become more valuable to me recently because I just want to see everyone level up, get better in the world, like be better at stuff. So now I'm more likely to be like, that's not how I feel. I don't know what caused you to think that, but I would like to talk about it if you want. And still some part of me is like,
it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's really exhausting.
Yeah, because most people also get lost on their side and then they get lost on your side. And then like the conversation becomes about something different. And it's just like, that wasn't what I was talking about. You're talking about something else.
I think, yeah, this conversation is going in multiple different directions, but that is sort of a requirement of, let's just say, a healthy, sustainable relationship. And it is that you are willing to sit down and you trust the other person is willing to sit down and say, hey, there's a tangle. Let's unravel this now before it becomes this unravelable yarn ball of destruction.
Yeah.
I think back to my relationship with Jessica, and again, that distinction between honesty and truth. Jessica would often tell me, hey, are you upset? Or you seem really upset. I'm not upset. Because that was true for me. That was me being honest. I had zero connection with my actual emotions. I had repressed them so deep that I believed I was telling the truth. And so I would just get frustrated with her for quote unquote projecting on me. Like, no, you think I'm angry. I'm not actually angry. And this created, the sort of beginnings of that. So earlier when I said, hey, if you're going to use other people as a mirror, expect that defense response. expect your mental faculties to start trying to invalidate what the other person is saying, and just ask yourself what would it be like if this was true? Everything inside of me is fighting it. It's not true. It can't be true. But let me just for a second, what do they mean? What could it be?
Yeah. Yeah, well, those overrides are important to look at for sure. Like things that you just override, like there's no way that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I had such a complex thought that I was going to vocalize, but it died.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think as a Enneagram 5, I even remember early in my life, like some people who did get me would tell I've heard other people say like, he's just often misunderstood.
Mm.
And so that became a part of my narrative. Like, yeah, of course you misunderstand me. I'm often misunderstood. So I don't care to correct the record. It's okay that you think I'm whatever thing you just said. But if you're going to be in a relationship with people, then you may as well spend the time to be understood.
Mm.
And it gets better if you do it, and it gets worse if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, you and I have lived together for almost 2 years now.
yeah.
And we've had, it's not like we hang out in the same rooms often. It's actually fairly rare.
Yeah.
But we do interact far more often than we ever did. And we have situations that affect us both equally. So there's more opportunity for conflict. There's more opportunity for misunderstandings or projections or whatever. And on multiple occasions, I have tried to go to the effort of like, hey, these are my thoughts. And I'm started out really, really, really bad at it. I'm still not great at it, but I'm trying to do this. And something that's been really interesting, it's a pattern of what I've acknowledged from you. The very first time I did it, I wrote this like 5-page letter. I just wanted to get my thoughts out in some sort of structure. And you said, it is shocking that someone has the energy to actually put into getting this out there. And you showed appreciation for it.
Yeah.
But that's something that's been interesting because it really is a desire in my heart to know and be known with the people that I'm in a relationship with, and seeing them take the time to either try to understand me and sit with that or not is almost this filter for like, okay, how in this are you? Because I'm really in it.
Yeah.
And it's not to like win an argument. It's literally to say, hey, I'm about to say some things and some of it's going to be wrong, but it is accurately representing what I think and feel right now. So let's help each other to see how we're misidentifying this reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And this goes back to like character structure and like all the realities of who you become over, but like if you don't think of yourself as a meaningful part of the world and you're misunderstood, you're like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't matter how I feel. You got it wrong, but who cares? Let's get you what you need. And that's just not that good of an approach for the long term. And I think everybody's story does matter and is important. And we need your voice and understanding you. And so it's just something I've like changed over time, my response to it. It's still not always energetic for me. Like sometimes I'm like, oh man, this is so far off that like, can't we just let it fade in the distance? Like,
yeah.
Let time heal this wound. We need to go through the thing where I say this and you say, no, that's not it at all. And then we go back and forth or whatever. But
yeah, sometimes it definitely does not feel worth it. And then I don't know, there's something inside of me that goes, it's actually the only thing that's worth it. It's like, you're going to move through this life and things are going to change and some of them are going to be meaningful and others aren't. But like having mirrors that you can actually depend on is huge. And part of being able to trust them, if even on a subconscious level, Like you might say, yeah, that's my friend. I trust them. We've been friends for 20 years. But at a subconscious level, if some part of you is holding back because of that one time that they got it wrong and you didn't correct them, you're going to be thinking, they don't really know me. They actually misunderstand me pretty often. And, this whole thing. So it's so valuable. One of the coolest things ever, actually, that struck me 3 minutes ago is you said, I had this complex idea that I was going to vocalize and I lost it. And I was like, that's so cool. Because a year ago, I've been like, I don't vocalize ideas. Like, they're too complex. I'm not going to put that effort in.
Definitely. Yeah, it's exactly that. And the more complex it is, and I try to order it before I get it out. And then I'm like, I lost some piece of it and it's gone. But it's worth trying. I should have a notepad maybe.
That's weird too, though. Because have you ever started, like something could be clear in your head?
Do you own a pen?
Ugh.
I own an Apple Pencil.
Who owns pens?
I have an Apple Pencil.
Once a year when I need to write, I can't find a pen.
I've got this cherry wood.
Yeah.
Leather-bound fountain pen.
It's not leather-bound, but I do write in a leather-bound journal with it.
Hey,
this
Jake.
is from Faber-Castell.
Where'd you get it?
Who knows, really?
No, where did you just get it from?
Oh, I got it from the leather binding that it was in. No, it was in my leather satchel here.
Sounds like
He does know where he got the pen. I'm not talking about his bag. I'm talking about he knows where he purchased that pen.
Of course.
Yeah, of course I do.
He doesn't want to say it.
Right.
Of course not.
I was referencing its leather boundness when you grabbed it.
I gotcha. Yeah, I get that now.
Yeah. It's just a lot of leather over there.
So, Noah, you seem eager to list some of my toxic traits. You want to go?
I just thought it was a funny concept. A speed round of...
I thought we could just give the listeners an example of how to use other people as a mirror.
No.
I don't think you talk to people as children always or anything like that. Just to be clear. But if you...
What do you mean?
Oh, I just mean like if you are doing the particular experiment that you're referencing, where you're like, it seems like everyone's defensive.
Mm.
It seems most likely that the toxic trait you're displaying at that time is talking to them like children.
Okay.
Or like idiots.
How does it feel whenever I do that for you?
Like that.
Like an idiot? Okay. Like condescending?
Yeah, condescending.
Yeah, just like we have we've never thought about this before.
Mm-hmm.
And you are giving it both definition and, I guess, explanation. Or
Yeah, it's sort of like this. Jake, you know that... No, it's never like that. It's like this. Jake, in ancient... No. It's something like that, though.
you could
Jake,
never
in
come up with the words.
No, I know. It's really hard to come up with the words. But you would need to know when Edison invented the light bulb, and I don't.
Yeah.
So when he did in 18 whatever, in 18 whatever, he invented the light bulb, and then throughout the history of electricity, we now have wires in the walls and switches, and the switches allow you to turn the light on, so you can just turn the light on whenever you want.
It's still crazy to me that
And you're like, what did you just say to me?
Why did you tell me all that?
I know how to turn a light on, Jake.
it's still crazy to me that he invented the light bulb with a key and a kite.
My primary problem here is saying that Edison invented the light bulb. He inherited the intellectual property for this.
This is exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, this is interesting. So as an example of the defense mechanism, the invalidation process, like as soon as you said that, I went, okay, well, sometimes on the podcast, I don't know the experiences of the listener. So I'm imagining this person in my mind, and I do need to take them through this whole journey. So I'll just invalidate that. You're actually wrong. I don't treat people like children. There's a reason for
I
why
think the
do.
bigger problem with the whole treating people like children thing
Mhm.
is that I just don't think it's needed most of the time. Like I appreciate that you go, oh, maybe they don't understand all this backstory. I should inform them.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger problem is that you think there's a need to fill all of this backstory when most human beings are intelligent, especially contextually.
Yeah. So I totally appreciate that. I would actually say the fault for me is that I have a desire to be known, right? And what my favorite part of any problem is never the conclusion, but all of the connecting pieces. So when I'm sharing this piece of information, I couldn't care less what the ending point is. It's like, isn't it so cool? There was this mystery, and I got to this place by thinking about this. And then 3 steps down, that's going to come back into play. So for me, it's almost like this story of how the ending piece was uncovered. So the way that I see my fault is actually at not doing a better job of preparing the story itself. It all comes out in a jumble, and I give you every single intricate detail, as opposed to, here's a well homogenized story.
I think your mirror could use some precision.
Noah, fix what you said.
I think we gave you this feedback in like what you just said. I think we gave you this feedback early on in this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Not this recording, but I mean, our overarching podcast
9 months ago or whatever that was.
I feel like we gave you this feedback, but I don't remember what our words were. But it was something like that. Like, we understand that you're trying to give a backstory.
Mm-hmm.
We understand that you're interested in how it all connects. You just start saying it like we're idiots instead of saying, hey, setting it up essentially.
Yeah, I think what I see is that what you're describing is more of a pleasure drive.
Yes.
Like, it's like, this is exciting. There's dopamine involved.
Right.
The brain.
Pinky in the brain.
Yeah. Well, and that's, so I wouldn't have been able to describe to you, this is actually a really interesting example, because we mentioned it 9 months ago, because my friends decided to reflect this back to me. Was I able to give you this insight? Like, that seemed like I was responding to what Noah said right then, but really it's been 9 months of uncovering this and me saying, I have this desire for validation. That I get from telling you, and here's how I figured it out, which is different than actually saying, the goal here is to get you to understand this information and to be as excited as I am. So
I feel like we've been telling him the validation thing for years.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting? The words themselves don't matter.
Yeah.
It's the picture that you have to evoke in someone's mind to get them to see the same thing.
I mean, we say it as friends in a really jerkish way.
That's interesting.
I try to say it less jerkish for sure than you do.
There's Jake again needing validation.
Yeah.
Hey, to be fair, I think you've done a good job, and I think I haven't said it in a long time because you haven't given me many reasons.
Hey.
Yeah, I just referenced your sweater.
Growth. Do we have an applause sound effect?
No.
Okay.
That's a bad applause sound effect.
Can we record that for later?
We already did record it.
No, our applause.
I think. Yeah.
All right, ready? 1, 2. Wait, is it 1, 2, 3, go? Or do we go on 3?
1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3.
Did you guys feel like we discussed the importance of honesty?
I briefly touched on what I think was that, and it's this idea that, like, there's a subconscious part of me that will doubt the fidelity of your observations as my mirror if I don't give you feedback when you're wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that honesty is important for that. It only works if it's like 100% of the time.
Yeah. It's difficult to be sensitive to other people's feelings while expressing your own and finding out that both of them don't match what you thought they would be.
Yes, it is. That is a difficult experience. Yeah. And you might find that there's an automatic reaction and you've got words coming out of your mouth telling the other person that they're wrong before you even decided that you should talk. Like, wow, why am I saying all of this?
Yeah. Or you might find yourself leaving the situation to go do something else because isolation is easier than this.
Or
I can say his if you want.
okay, yeah,
Say mine.
go for it.
You might find yourself just overpowering the other person completely so that they shut up.
Is that what I do?
I've seen you do it. But it's probably not how you experience it. What are you thinking and feeling right now?
No, I'm wondering. I'd like an example of an overpowering situation.
Help me give him one.
I don't know.
If you can't think of it, there's not a good example.
Well,
Just
I don't know
there.
what that means.
You see
What you can't
just
see-
literally just did.
What you can't
That's
see on the
greatest
podcast.
example.
What you can't see on the podcast was the smile I gave Frank when I just did that.
Because the smile makes it not true.
Well, I just didn't want it to. I didn't want them to think that I just did it not on purpose.
It's okay.
So what we've learned is that reflection from others is only helpful when they can actually reflect.
I don't know if that's true. I think it often feels like they can't reflect. And then you realize that, oh, maybe there's something there.
No, I think you're probably accurate. I would like an example of one, is what I'm saying.
Give him an example, Jake.
You're the one who brought it up.
Doesn't mean I'm the only one who knows about it.
The fear of the 8 is strong.
I am not afraid. I don't have an example.
You're so
It's not
afraid.
meaningful to me. I'm a 5.
I'm scared.
You need someone who would care about this. You need a 4 to answer this question for you.
I don't know.
I forget them as soon as they happen.
Force.
No, the 8 overpowering. I'm like, what a douche.
Can we have a podcast of like making fun of Enneagram stereotypes? Because just the 4 disappearing, that was pretty fun.
Give him an example, man. We got to end this podcast.
Well, unfortunately, I don't know exactly what you were thinking when you said it, which makes me feel like I couldn't give an example.
What's
that
this?
actually equals the same thing.
Do you feel like, I'm trying to think of a podcast where you thought I was shutting it down, like the Slack podcast?
I don't remember it, but yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, without a good example, it's hard to say for sure, but I would say that it's typically, for me, my experience would be, no, I just, this is what I think on this situation and I'm done talking about it. Like if it's trivial.
Right, because it's trivial to you. But it may not be trivial to both people in the relationship.
Sure. Would you say that Slack is trivial?
Well,
Would the cinnamon roll situation be what you're talking about?
what's the
Cinnamon.
cinnamon roll situation?
Appeal?
That's good. I don't even know what happened there, but yes, that certainly was overpowering
It's like,
the environment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good example, guys. That's a good example. I don't remember it.
You don't?
No, that's what you said essentially. Oh, that's good. I don't remember what happened.
No, I don't. I don't remember the details very well, but I do remember the way it made me feel. And I specifically remember the way it made Brandy feel.
How do you know how Brandy felt?
She told me about it for most of the day.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it seemed like this large emotional outburst that was played off like a joke. But regardless, and maybe it was, right? You get the opportunity to say whatever it meant. Regardless, the result, right? The result of the behavior is that everyone becomes uncomfortable. They say, well, this isn't going anywhere, and there's no sense in the conversation continuing because it's over.
Yeah, you achieved control.
Yeah. usually if something like that happens, it is a joke, but it is pointing to something, like most comedy, it's pointing to something that is true and unjust. And again, for 8, it's usually something that's unjust.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a feeling about like whether it's good or not. Like I think all of the defense mechanisms are good in some situations and probably not in others. I have personally experienced great benefit from isolating in problems. But this doesn't make it good to do all the time.
Sure. If it's the cinnamon roll thing that I'm thinking of, that was actually just you and me. And then you brought it back up late the next time we were there with the group. But it was just you and me sitting at a table, and I made sure that we split them evenly.
Yeah.
Well, whatever one I just referenced, I was there for.
There was a callback to that, I think,
Right.
for you. Maybe for me, too. I don't know. But these cinnamon rolls were 50 cents. And
Right, which
they had no meaning to me.
Right. Which, from my perspective, is like, you're seriously taking my response serious enough about this thing that we both agree doesn't matter. My response was a joke.
Yeah. And I don't think everyone interpreted it as such.
Right. But I don't think that I brought it back up. It doesn't matter because we can't remember the situation accurately anyway. But my point is the situation with the whole group, I'm guessing you brought that back up. Because it was certainly not something I was fixated on.
Sure, yeah. I mean, no, if we have the time, because we're already past the time, but I think there's value in discussing this more.
Sure.
Because I think, this is all me, 100% my side view. I think probably something about that was embarrassing to you, and you wanted to have the narrative be different. That's just my gut instinct on it. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I would say you are wrong about that. Yeah. But that's fine that it's your experience.
Yeah, well, it's definitely my experience, but I just that seemed like what happened to me, and I don't know.
Yeah, it'd probably be better to have a closer example to the moment than several months back or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting that we all have different ways of dealing with that. I too have seen that treat someone like a child defense mechanism work for the good as well. And it's simply that if I see another person and I think, wow, they're just failing hard, seeing them as a child who might be dealing with any number of things really creates a huge amount of empathy for me. And I go, I'm just going to imagine for this moment in time, they're having the hardest day of their life. Let me talk to them like that.
Right.
As opposed to, you're failing. You're doing this on purpose, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the, as a 5, I go to the 8 stuff in one of the times.
Yeah. That's your,
it feels like strength
integration.
Yeah. So I definitely remember having done that many times in when I was a paramedic, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that reactive. I'm not that must have control of each scenario. But if something really wrong is happening, then I do become that.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is totally opposite of my natural defensive, back away.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so memorable to me. But
yeah, I have the 8 wing, and it arises in moments of injustice, I would say. And I have to be careful because it's also generally emotionally motivated.
That's right. You might get the thing wrong. It may not be unjust, but it felt unjust. And then that's, I don't know the dangers of being an 8, but that seems like one of the ones.
Yep.
Well, I think that's the danger of any defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Is that it's your defense mechanism.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
If something touches a nerve, but then in fact, it wasn't what I thought it was, then it's like, oh, I'm doing the wrong. Here I am saying these words and I didn't even choose to, type of thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. So we can use ourselves as mirrors and we can use other people as mirrors.
That's
In
right.
different ways. Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening. Hey, it's Frank again. Thanks for listening to an Origins episode of the Unbecoming Platypus podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast to stay updated on future episodes. You can also check us out online at theunbecomingplatypus.com. We hope these conversations inspire you to improve your communication skills and deepen your connections with your own friends and loved ones. Until next time, this has been the Unbecoming Platypus podcast.